Hey guys, it's Alex here, and I hope you're going well. And today I've got another review, this time of my Apple iPhone 12 Pro. Now I've had this for a couple of months since launch, and I've chosen this phone specifically instead of the Pro Max and the standard 12, and there's a couple of reasons why, even though I've had Max phones in the past. This is a phone you might still be looking at, you might be coming over from an Android phone, but there's still a reason why I quite like this phone, and there's still some things that are maybe a little bit annoying about it as well, that is worth talking about and taking a look into, especially if you're looking at this phone yourself. So let's take a look at what makes up the iPhone 12 Pro and why I chose this phone. Talking about the size of the iPhone 12 Pro, I really liked the size of my 11 Pro Max. That's what I had before, so I really liked the Max phones, and I found with the 11 Pro Max it had fantastic battery, it had a great display, and it wasn't too large to carry around. So to be honest, that's actually what I went to first. When the phones first came out and there was that slightly later launch for the Pro Max, I purchased the 12 Pro Max. And to be honest, as you can see here, it's a lovely phone. It has a huge display and has incredible battery life, just even on the day or so that I used it. But something that I noticed straight away is that it was too heavy for me. I just found that, at least with the 11 Pro Max, that slightly smaller size and having those rounded edges was easy to fit in my pocket. It was easy to grasp a hold of. But this phone, in the form of the 12 Pro Max, despite being absolutely gorgeous and having a fantastic build, and it just feels extremely luxurious, I just found that it was way too heavy. In particular, it was quite top heavy, so I found that it just was not easily balanced in my hand. I felt like I was straining my hand to use it. So even though I think it's a great phone, it will suit a number of people, especially if you've got a larger hand or if you could really value that extra battery life or even some of the enhanced camera features, I just found that the 12 Pro was probably going to suit me better, and I wanted to use my phone less, and I found that this smaller screen size was probably going to be better for that, while still giving me a lot of the features that I want. I do love the flat edges of this phone. I really like how that has changed throughout the generations. I do think it's a little less comfortable than the curved edges that we had in the previous phones, but I think it just looks really great when it's all flat and when it's sitting like this. I found it a bit uncomfortable in the Pro Max, but in this phone, and at this size, I think it looks great. And in the Pro specifically, I think the blue is absolutely stunning. I think the matte design on the back looks really premium, and it is a bit of a step up from just the standard blue that you get on the standard 12. And the chamfer as well, even though it does look like it's very scratchable, I do use a case, and it is getting a lot of fingerprints as I'm actively using it, but it is just really shiny and it makes it a really luxury product. It is quite heavy too, and it all adds to the phone feeling really well built and really premium. So overall, I think that is a nice improvement over the previous generation and makes the phone a little bit more modern as well. It's something that's always hard to show on camera, but as always with every iPhone 12 launch, and just with the advancement of displays today anyway, the display on this phone is fantastic. I can't fault it. It's got a fantastic color palette. It has great depth in the color as well, and it does get extremely bright. In fact, the Pro does get quite a little bit brighter than the 12, but it's not going to be a huge difference if you choose the 12. I think actually a really great enhancement with the standard 12 phone is that no longer has the LCD panel from the previous 11, and it now matches the OLED panels that we are getting in the Pro models. But you are just getting that slight amount of extra brightness here on the 12 Pro, but it doesn't come out too well on the camera. Just the color range that we actually get on this display, its brightness and use outside, and also fantastic algorithms when it comes to brightness settings and auto brightness, makes it really easy to use every day. I have no real issues with the display, and I've always been really quite happy with it, and this is just a further enhancement. And as we have as well with this particular revolution, Apple did make note that the display now is quite a lot stronger as well, so-called ceramic glass, ceramic shield, and that enhancement means that it is, I believe, about 4 times extra in drop resistance over a previous model. I don't think that actually comes across much in an enhancement from scratch resistance, but it is a good thing to see at least that we have got an even stronger display. I still choose to use a screen protector usually I'm just more comfortable doing so, especially if I end up selling my phone. But if you choose not to use it, or even if it's just a drop that's going to be strong enough to break your screen protector as well, it's good to know that the display itself is a bit stronger with that ceramic shield as well. Speaking a bit further about design, something that was quite big for Apple during the keynote and for the launch of the iPhone 12 as well, is MagSafe. So MagSafe is back in a very different form, and that is in the form of magnets in the back of the phone. And that has meant that Apple has launched a line of accessories in the form of cases that magnetically clip on, like the one I have on this phone, in the leather form, and as well the MagSafe charger, for example, that now provides snap-on connections to the phone, so you don't have to worry about it not charging overnight if it wasn't perfectly placed. And Apple also gives you the benefit of having 15-watt charging if you are using their MagSafe charger. It's a bit sad that that's still quite a little bit less than the competition, and a lot of the competition don't have the requirement of using MagSafe compatible type chargers. You can just use any Qi charger that supports that speed. But at least we do have something that is a little bit faster and something that's going to keep the phone in place. The only thing that I don't quite like about that is, as a case user and using the Apple leather case, Apple has shown, and so have users of this specific case, that when you are using MagSafe accessories frequently, over time that is obviously going to create a bit of an indentation on the case itself. Personally, I'm fine with my 10-watt charger that I use every day, which is just a stand-up one, so it's always aligned, and that is not magnetic, so it doesn't cause issues with my case, and it always charges overnight. But it is good to have these accessories. The wallet is kind of cool. I've tried it. It could have a little bit more capacity, but it's great to see that there is a new lineup of cases, a new lineup of accessories, and some other accessory makers as well that are coming out or have brought out these MagSafe accessories. So it is quite a cool little innovation to have included in the iPhone 12s, and that's available across the board, all of the 12 handsets. Now let's talk cameras. This is something that's really important for most people when you're buying a phone, and it's always a great improvement to see every time a new iPhone or a new smartphone comes out. And to be honest, this phone has not disappointed. I'm definitely really happy with the enhancements that we've received on the camera. Now, as we can see here, I'm just taking a photo on my desk. We've got the same settings that we had on a number of the previous phones. So the thing I like about the Pro is that we still do have the telephoto option for the 2x zoom, which I just like in terms of portrait mode and getting that extra data, because this phone actually has a LiDAR sensor in it as well that uses basically depth technology to determine what you're focusing on and what you're looking at, and that extra depth data enables a much better experience when it comes to portrait photography. So it's nice to have that in the Pro models, but as well, just having that telephoto lens does just give me a little bit more versatility with zooming in on objects and for portrait mode and the like as well, because the standard 12 doesn't have that. But it is nice to see that in the standard 12 at least you still get that 0.5 lens. Something I've noticed as well in the camera, most of my other videos except for this one have been filmed on this 12 Pro, and I've really noticed an improvement in the wide angle view lens, especially in video and in night shots. There's just a better color palette that's coming out, and that's probably due to the light that is coming in from the improved aperture on the wide angle lens, and as well it's just a lot less grainy for that point as well. I find that night mode is quite a bit better, but just overall I can film things in 0.5x zoom quite frequently and they'll still look fantastic. I don't really feel the need to always use standard zoom when I'm filming things, just to retain a bit of quality. So it's really nice to see that across the board on all of the lenses, night mode and the like has been improved. There is less graininess, and on that ultra wide lens it is looking a lot clearer and a lot smoother too, because that is a very versatile lens that a lot of people like to use, which is why it's basically now available across the board on all the iPhone 12s. So it's great to see that itself has been improved. Jumping to speed and performance, this has always been something that Apple and the iPhone in general has always been fantastic for, and it's what is basically a product of what they do with both developing the hardware and the software and the enhancements that they are able to make on their silicon every year. And to be honest, there's not even that much we can really say about it year on year. Usually, even the A13 chip from the previous generation, from the 11s, was already generally quite a decent amount ahead of the Snapdragons and a lot of the Android phones in terms of benchmarks and even just daily performance. It usually seems quite a bit quicker than most, if not a lot of phones. And I think this has just continued with the iPhone 12 and the A14 Bionic. And I wouldn't say that the iPhone 11 was a slouch in any sense. It's just this phone just continues to keep up to pace with everything that you're possibly trying to do during the day. Even when I'm doing things like taking a video on this phone, using something like Filmic Pro, and just noticing how quickly I can render that, how quickly I can transfer it to other things, rotate it. They're just things that really you don't even need to think about. You very rarely see processing occurring on this phone, and whether it's even gaming performance, video editing, using normal everyday apps, and the like, there is plenty you can do on this phone, and it will continue to stay fast. It's also important to talk about the cellular performance that's available on the iPhone 12s. And the great news is that across the 12 range, they all now have 5G. Now, here in Australia and basically the rest of the world, we do actually get a slightly inferior product to the US. That's why on the side of our phones here, we only have the SIM slot, the SIM tray, and really nothing else other than the buttons. Whereas in the US, there is on the side a particular part on the phone that's reserved for the antenna for millimeter wave 5G that's built into the US only handsets. And that's primarily due to the life cycle that the US has in terms of millimeter wave and the spectrum that's released globally. And that's just a lot of what the US has been shooting ahead with. Whereas, for example, here in Australia, we haven't really had millimeter wave open up outside of some testing trials. That should be coming soon. And I'm sure we will get it in a future iPhone. So it's great that that's available on the US phones. Here in Australia, we don't yet have that, as with most of the rest of the world, but we do have the standard 5G. And to be honest, with what we have here, I'm on Telstra in Australia, and we've actually got relatively decent 5G coverage nationally already, which is great to see. But on the standard 5G, I've actually had pretty fantastic performance. I've been quite impressed with it. So I'm really excited to see what millimeter wave will present in the future when the networks here catch up, and when we do get a millimeter wave iPhone in international markets. So something to talk about now is definitely the battery life. I've talked about a number of the things that I really like about my iPhone 12 Pro. I really like the size, I love the display, I really do like the design and the performance that the phone offers, both from a 5G perspective and from the CPU. But the battery is something that unfortunately has been a little bit disappointing. I would have loved to have had the same performance if I'd gone to the 12 Pro Max, but obviously that phone just didn't work out for me from a size perspective, and this is a lot more comfortable for me. But I definitely have had that downgrade in battery performance, and I think probably with the introduction of 5G and some of that extra CPU performance as well, this phone is unfortunately just not great with battery life. I'm finding that at the end of the day, I am getting very much in the red like I am now. Definitely with a fair bit of usage and a fair bit of screen on time, but it's definitely nowhere near what I had before with the Pro Max. The good thing is with my particular usage, especially being at home a lot now, and even when I'm in the office or driving in the car, I always generally have access to a charger. It's a bit annoying, but I'm just finding myself now, if I'm using maps in the car or just on Bluetooth, I will plug it in now. But it does mean that I am a little less mobile, and I am going to need to plug in a little bit more often. So it is a little bit frustrating with this phone. Something to be aware of. You might need to carry around a charger or an extended battery a little more often, and you're definitely going to face probably much better battery life with the Pro Max if that's a real priority for you. All right, so summarizing my purchase of my iPhone 12 Pro. I'm overall really quite happy with this phone. Look, it's probably not amazing in terms of battery life, and that has been a little bit of a frustration for me, but at least while I'm working at home a lot with everything that's going on with the pandemic, it hasn't been too much of a concern. At the same time, the 12 Pro Max was just such a massive phone. I don't want to be on my phone all that often during the day, so I really don't need that extra screen real estate. Could have done with the battery life, but I just found it too large. So I'm happy that I went down to this size, and I'm happy I got this phone over the standard 12 due to that extra camera lens and some of the enhancements with the camera as well. So really have a think about that. Otherwise, as with the past couple of years where phones have been becoming less and less significant in their changes and innovation, this is just a fantastically usable phone, as with most iPhones in the past few years. And that's why I continue to stick with the iPhones and Apple products as a whole. I use this as a tool. I use it to take calls, messages, and videos, and it does all of those things remarkably well and with very little fuss. So I hope that might have helped your decision today if you are looking at purchasing this phone. Otherwise, it has been a great phone, and I look forward to what Apple brings out this coming year. Thanks for watching this review of my iPhone 12 Pro. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you're looking at buying this phone or you have already bought it, let me know in the comments what you think about it. And if you want to watch more content, stay up to date by liking and subscribing, and I'll catch you in future videos. See you soon.